So hospitality has always been a fast-moving industry, but now it feels noisier than ever. Every week there's a new trend: AI, automation, sustainability, new social media platforms, delivery platforms, changing guest expectations. The challenge for operators isn't the shortage of ideas, it's knowing what actually matters. So I've spent 35 years in hospitality, building restaurants, scaling brands, and advising operators big and small. And one thing I've learned in this business is that businesses that win aren't the ones chasing every trend. They're the ones that stay disciplined about what really drives the guest experience and the economics of the business. So today our goal is simple: separate the real signals from the noise and give you practical insights on what hospitality leaders should actually be paying attention to over the next few years. So let me introduce our two esteemed panelists. Our first panelist is Jabulani Debedu, who's an associate director at BDO South Africa. Jabulani brings extensive experience in tourism and hospitality advisory, feasibility studies, business evaluations, and market research across South Africa and Africa. He'll help us understand the big picture trends shaping our industry. Then we also have Trevor Boyd, Operations Director for Food and Beverage at City Lodge Hotels. With over 30 years of experience in the industry, Trevor combines culinary excellence with operational leadership, and he'll share the real-world perspective on how these trends are playing out for operators and teams on the ground. So let's get the big picture first. So Jabulani, we're going to begin with you. So, from a market perspective, what are the key trends hospitality should be watching in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's actually a tough question, especially given the times that we're going through now. Maybe just for broader context, I mean, since COVID, not only the tourism and hospitality industry has been noisy, but it seems as if the entire world has been quite noisy. And as you correctly pointed out, those that have done well and will continue to do well are those that focus on the main thing, keeping the main thing, focusing on the fundamentals, and maintaining your discipline. Just in terms of, suppose, high level, the market trends, I mean, they remain the same largely. In recent times, there have been, I suppose, factors that have influenced or at least emphasized the importance of them. I think I'm going to focus on one in particular.
Yeah.
Cost structures and cost drivers. I think that's an important one, whether you're looking at hospitality from a hotel or from a restaurant perspective. Managing costs, keeping a tight lid on costs is becoming increasingly important. And if you look at since COVID, we had periods of high inflation. Now, just when inflation was subsiding, now we're having to gird our loins potentially for the shock that could potentially, I mean, it could be weeks or maybe days away with what's the development in the Middle East. So managing costs is quite important. I mean, beyond just the inflation that we had, we also had issues such as the electricity crisis, which thank goodness has subsided. But now there's another localized crisis which is worked up, which I suppose the impact of it is uneven. It has been, at least it has been a trend in the Western Cape for quite a while, in the Eastern Cape for quite a while. Now it's spread into the rest of the country, and that's one area of concern from a hospitality perspective. And I suppose it all speaks to costs, managing cost, which is something, at least from an operator perspective, it's something that you have a handle on, because other external factors, it could be, let's say, the sluggish state of the economy, which hasn't, I suppose, resulted in the recovery of business, leisure, and mass travel as much as we would have wanted. And just from a trend perspective, when you look at demand, there has been recovery. I mean, two months ago, there was positive PR around, the bounce back from an international tourism perspective. But even that recovery is uneven. So some areas are doing better than others. The most obvious being your Western Cape or Cape Town node, as well as the Kruger, the floods notwithstanding. But other areas, at least other destinations within the country, have been struggling, and that has been a major cause of concern for operators, and it's something that, at least in the short term, should be looked at quite closely.
Oh, big time, huh? Yeah, it's amazing. Like you say, like 2 months ago, we're on a bit of an upwards trajectory. And then next thing, you get certain presidents opening their mouth and getting into wars and, and it just changes everything from day to day. Like 3-4 weeks ago, people were positive, things are happening. Now, inflation, we're having to revisit again. Huh?
Yeah.
So Jabulani, which industry signals do you think might be getting too much attention? Trends that operators may actually be overthinking?
I think the obvious for me, and maybe a lot of people may not necessarily agree, is artificial intelligence, AI, the adoption and implementation of it. Because although it's a buzzword, not only for the sector, but just in general, but if you look at South Africa in particular, the economic case or the viability of it, at least for increased adoption, has not yet been proven, especially in the context where operators are still contending with other cost factors. It could be service delivery, electricity, utilities costs, high municipal rates. So AI as a tool has certain benefits, but I think given where the hospitality market, certainly in South Africa, is, it's something that the viability, the economics of it have not yet been proven. And even then, it's not evenly distributed across all sectors. So those that belong in groups like Trevor would be in a better position to, I suppose, research, identify and adopt, technology tools just to improve operations, but that comes with a significant cost. But at least at the group level, you can amortize the cost across the group.
Yes.
If you're an independent operator, it's a nice to have, but it's not an essential aspect to have. Ultimately, when you look at the hospitality sector, it's still a human-centric sector and industry where there is some scope for technology to support it. So I would say definitely the one noisy area would be artificial intelligence from in my view.
But it goes back to the human, like you said.
Yeah.
So how are economic conditions, infrastructure developments, and tourism trends influencing hospitality decision-making in South Africa right now?
Yeah, it's actually quite massive.
Yeah.
Maybe at the macro level, you think of infrastructure. I'll make an example. Let's say you're a lodge between let's say Leidenburg or Mashishing and Sabi. You operate there, but the state of the road has not been resurfaced for quite a while. And instead of people going to Sabi via, let's say, Dalstrom all the way to your lodge, they're taking the other way around or bypassing your facility altogether. That has material impact on businesses.
Absolutely.
Not only from a lodge, hotel, restaurant, but all other, I suppose, people in the value chain. That's how infrastructure is actually having a material impact on our. And I suppose if you bring it down at the business level, is water, electricity. Certainly at a national level, the electricity picture has improved in the last 15 months.
Okay.
But now the issue has become localized with aging infrastructure where it's no longer an issue of supply. It's about, the local authorities, whether city power and the likes, the ability of them to provide electricity consistently for businesses to be able to operate. Water and electricity would certainly be. So that's from an infrastructure side that factors that certainly impact operations.
Nice. Okay, you know what? That's been great, Jabulani, because, so you've given us a, great big picture view of where the industry is heading. So let's build on that, for a moment, Trevor. Macro trends are important and interesting, but as we know, operators live in the daily reality of costs, staffing, and customers walking through your door. So, Trevor, as you're dealing with the operational reality every day, okay, from the operator's perspective, what trend is already changing day-to-day operations in hospitality, and whether that's staffing, menu design, guest expectations?
See, I almost think trend is like a swear word to me.
Yeah.
It's because I believe at the end of the day, what you're giving the guest is what he wants and what he expects. There's different levels of trend. There's different levels of operations that can incorporate certain trends within their levels. So I think what we have to be careful of as operators is understand what our market is. Understand who you are. Who are you aiming at? You can't be something to everybody. You got to find your person, use whatever trend is relevant, but also use the trend lightly. There's certain trends that are important, and it's not a trend. It's a reality. Operational costs, looking after staff, finding work-life balance. Those things are realities. They aren't trends. AI seems to be a trend, but I think it's going to be here to stay. And I think we've got to find a way to incorporate it to make our business wiser so that we can look after our guests more clever. There's ample opportunities to extract information out of the people that we are feeding, that we're entertaining in our restaurants.
Yeah.
To be able to find ways for AI to make us smarter, to engage with them a lot easier and a lot more effective. From an operational point of view, we need to be able to use what we have a little bit more smartly. But I don't want to harp on it too much, but I still believe that a person fundamentally wants to recognize what they're eating, and they want to be recognized when they come and eat. And those two things go hand in hand. And you can follow as many trends as you want, and the trend will come and go from an eating perspective or from an offering on your menu perspective. But you will always come back to what is recognizable, what people enjoy eating. And as long as you do that well in your right tier of business, you'll be successful.
Give me that little blurb again.
I can't remember what I said.
What did he say? Customer wants to recognize what he's eating
And be recognized.
and be
at the same
recognized.
time.
No, that's
And I think-
lekker.
and I
I
think-
like that.
I think what we have lost along the way within hospitality is hospitality. Hospitality is the key to keeping people coming back. If your food is okay, your service is okay, those things work all right. But if you walk away being recognized and being felt important in that establishment, you'll come back.
I love it. So, what adaptations have worked particularly well in real hotel and food and beverage operations?
I think, again, it's going to be a little bit what I've said is being agile, understanding who you are entertaining and who you
Who your market
treating,
is,
what your market is. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get that fundamentally right, you and the guest are never going to come together. And I think that's what's important. And more importantly, and I'll say it over again, is we need to understand who we are and who we're feeding and who we're entertaining. And entertaining, I use the word entertaining rather than serving, because service is about entertainment. Service is about making a bit of a show for the guest, from when he arrives to when he sits down to when he leaves. And all the things that go in service related in between need to be slick, but we also need to be agile enough to understand if our market is changing, and how do we adapt ourselves to the market that is changing within our establishment? Do we close our establishment and form another one that's following the trend that's going? Or do you stick firm with your fundamentals, do them right, and make sure that you get a solid base that keep coming back to you? Instead of having 200 people hit you every night for 3 weeks, let's have 80 people hit you every night for 2 years, you know what I mean? And look after those people. Use all the tools that are available in today's time to make sure that we can make their dining experience flawless.
Yeah, what we've noticed over the last 4 years now since COVID, especially when you look at from a hotel and restaurant perspective, is that COVID. When you look at hotel rates, at least room rates, I mean those have been under pressure for quite a while, and for most nodes in South Africa, they have not quite recovered. There's been a marginal, I suppose, nominal increase, but if you strip away inflation, in places, let's say like Sandton, you're actually paying less for a room than you would have paid, let's say, in 2019. But where I suppose that the industry has, I suppose, shifted, or at least pivoted from a strategy perspective, is to maximize their yield and revenue from a food and beverage perspective. And I think it's perhaps something that Trevor will touch on in terms of what City Lodge has done, just from a F&B perspective, supporting the revenue bottom line, is that to better manage their revenue in a market where it's been quite constrained from a demand as well as a price sensitivity perspective, because business hasn't come back to the extent that it was before COVID, and now corporates are quite price sensitive in terms of how much they are willing to pay for a room. But one area where hotels in particular have had greater scope, which there's no leakage in terms of paying intermediaries such as online travel agents or traditional travel agents commissions. It's in the F&B area where guests have a far, I suppose, better tolerance for aggressive pricing than when it comes to actually a bed. Suppose competition
the aggressive
also.
part sometimes doesn't go so well.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's been one of the interesting things that we've certainly picked up in terms of how food and beverage has been actually quite a lifesaver for a lot of the hotels in the country, especially in the last 3 to 5 years.
And just to hop on what you're saying is it's about finding what your guest wants. You don't have to be a 3 Michelin star restaurant in a 3-star hotel. In a 3-star hotel, you can still give great food, great value, and give the guest a great experience. And he will understand where he's eating.
Yeah.
His expectations won't be different to what you're offering. Just do it well.
Spot on. Yeah. So you might have already answered this, Trevor, but hospitality businesses constantly need to innovate, but they also rely on consistency. What advice would you give leaders trying to balance innovation with operational consistency?
Yeah, I would guard against too much innovation too soon, too quickly. Just find little steps that you need to take. If you feel you need to evolve, do it in stages. Don't do it in one whole big. You'll confuse your consumer.
Yes.
You will confuse yourself. So do it slowly, do it eloquently, and make sure that you don't confuse the people working for you.
Yes. Yeah.
The people coming to eat with you, or come and dine with you, or come and stay with you. And once you've found those steps and perfect them each time, make sure you do it consistently, because that is the biggest challenge for anybody, to ensure that if I come today, and I'm a simple person when I go out, I go to certain restaurants for certain things. So if I go to this restaurant today for a curry, let's say, I'm not even going to look at the menu, but I make sure that every time I go there, the curry is going to be exactly the same that I want, because I don't want anything else. That's what I expect. And that's the consistency from everything, from service, from welcoming to goodbyes. Make sure that you stay consistent. So one day you don't get treated like a king as a guest, and the next day you get forgotten. And you start walking around thinking, what has just happened here?
Yeah.
Have I done something wrong? or are they having a bad day? There must never be that. You must, and don't set your targets too high. If you believe you can only be consistent at one level, stay there and do it brilliantly. If you believe you can get to a different level, whatever level you're in with offering people stuff, just make sure you do each of those every single time the same that you would have done it yesterday.
Yeah, it's like somebody shared with me the other day, I think, is find the point where you're at the highest, where you can be consistent. You don't want to be above that and be
Yes.
inconsistent.
100%.
Rather find the point where you're most consistent and stay there, work it, become better, and then move up.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so great points. But, so something that I'd just like to add is that I've worked with, many businesses and that, is that trends only matter if they either improve the guest experience or the economics
Yeah.
of the business. Working with, a lot of strong operators and leaders and how they evaluate trends. And this is, I think, is a key thing. 3 simple questions. Is it sustainable? Because if it's short-lived, it's definitely not strategy. Does it fit our brand and our customers? Exactly like you were saying. Because not every trend suits our concept or
100%.
our customers. And the key thing, can you execute it consistently? Because if it can't be repeated operationally, it definitely becomes a risk. Because in hospitality, consistent execution matters far more than clever ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jabulani, if you were advising a hospitality business owner today, what would you say they need to get right over the next 3 years?
Yeah. Suppose I'll go back to my initial point. I think cost is definitely an issue because I think from a revenue perspective, there's quite strong competition. Although there are some strategies that operators can certainly do to drive that, but I think managing costs is quite important. Maybe just to give a practical example, hotels in particular are quite notorious with high wastage levels, especially on the food and beverage side. So if as part of the operations, you incentivize people like Trevor to say that, guys, granted, the state of the economy, the state of demand is quite tight. We can't even push our average meal or rates by let's say inflation, let alone plus inflation. How can we still ensure that we'll remain competitive? Where can we, I suppose, think of innovative solutions? Incentivize people like Trevor to say that if we're let's say preparing this menu, what's the percentage of waste that this menu generates per serving, and how can we optimize it to ensure that we take the waste margin and drop it directly into our bottom line. Do the same thing by just reducing our weight. It will certainly address issues such as cost. But I think a good example now is, at least over the last year or so, is the rapid increase in the cost of beef. Let's say premium cuts like steak and the likes. So if I'm used to going to Trevor's hotel, ordering a steak at 250 a pop, then I go next week, it's at 350. It's the same portion, same. It's definitely hitting me in my pocket. But it's the cost that, because of the foot and mouth disease, supply chain issues, it's a cost that he has to pass on to the customer. So cost is one thing. On the revenue side, it may be controversial for some people or establishment, but I actually think considering the tapa style idea, where we see it in all other sectors of retail, where 10 years ago you used to buy a body of Coke which was 340, now it's 300 ml. it's probably the same price. It's been inflated. So similarly with instead of because people no longer buy two-course meals now. It's either or even three-course meal. They either take a starter and a main, or a main and dessert. So you design the menu in such a way that they still get to taste their favorites, and maybe hold the prices, but certainly reduce portion size to ensure that they at least from an experience perspective, it's still the same, but it does not necessarily burn the pocket, because I mean, as Trevor mentioned, I mean, there's only so much that you can push the envelope in terms of pricing. And when you look at the trend generally, even for me when I travel, the guest spend, I mean, there's a pressure in terms of the average spend. If you go to dinner, the three of us, I mean, we probably have a ballpark figure to say that I'm not willing to spend more than $500 a pop, but still want to ensure that with that $500 you still have an enjoyable experience.
There was a. Can you hear me? There was a very cool word you used in there. My boss is sitting in here.
Yeah.
Can you explain that incentivization on reducing costs?
You know what? I thought he was going to take advantage of that. I knew it. I just knew it.
No, but I agree with you. It's the cost. I'm a chef, and often we don't worry about cost because we want to make people happy. But in today's world, cost is where you actually start the meal, and then you start designing yourself around those costs and try and see how do you give a proper meal or a value for money meal at a cost that the market is testing you at.
So Trevor, adding on to what Jabulani spoke about, for operators in the room, what is one or two practical moves
I told you I can't say.
Yeah, I know. You would recommend they make in the next 12 months to strengthen their business?
I honestly believe one of the major thing is to ensure that you understand your guest. And that has always been my philosophy, is understand your guest. When I was a young chef, I used to cook for myself because I'd seen all these celebrity chefs and what can you do that's so cool and trendy and creative. And then all of a sudden, a lot of those dishes stayed in the fridge. And the cost becomes a problem. And once I got mature enough to understand that I don't cook for myself anymore, I cook for the guests, and they are the ones that make sure that the stock comes out the fridge and goes into our cash registers. And it sounds a little bit harsh that we don't really care about them, but we have to cover our costs and be protective of our costs. But I think more importantly, we've got to remember what our guests are looking for from us, because at the end of the day, we're cooking for them. So I think if you're in a situation where you're not sure, do some homework, do some research, get an understanding of who the people are that are coming back to you consistently, and make sure that you cater for those people. Don't get blurred by the noise. Don't get blurred by the trends and the noise that is out there that is confusing you. The more you are worried about who the people are that are coming to you, the better your revenue is going to start looking.
Just to add on that point, I think what for me is a lost art is directly engaging with your guests in a restaurant, because unlike doing, let's say, a secondary third party research, we have your patrons there, they're captive. Engage with them constantly, and I mean it's so refreshing when you're dining, especially when the establishment is not necessarily busy, to have, let's say, a chef coming to you, engaging, finding out what worked well with the meal. Because those insights are actually invaluable in terms of what from a menu design and just improvement can be done in the kitchen. So engaging with your guests and also your patrons is actually something that a lot of the hospitality operators also suppose just go back to.
So I wrote something down. I normally just talk, but I wanted to say something specifically about this, and it touches on exactly what we're
Go
ending
for
here,
it.
is to say,
Yeah.
the future may be noisy, but hospitality businesses that stay grounded in service, adaptability, and genuine human connection will be the best position to thrive. Don't lose that human connection with your people that are coming to spend their money in your place.
So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up, and let me say what I've got here, and then touch on what you guys are saying there. So, hospitality will always be noisy. We know that. New trends are going to keep on appearing, but the operators who succeed are the ones that stay disciplined about the fundamentals. Great food, great service, great teams, and I'm going to stress simple operations. Adding on to what maybe Trevor said, we try and do too much at the same time and everything, you lose it. Keep it simple, stupid. I think, that's a key thing there. Because if you get those right, the future becomes a lot less confusing.
Yeah.
And I really think there's key, and some of the things that I've taken out of this, but it just reminds me, because I do business coaching, and one of the biggest things as operators that you can do is identify who your core customer is, because that's what it's about. You just got to identify what do they want and service them, and provide them what they want. But it's the fundamentals. I'm going to end off with that. Be consistently great at the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Hey, Jabulani,
Yeah.
from a big picture perspective,
Yeah.
and from an operator. Huh?
100%, yeah.
Simplicity.
Simplicity. Okay, cool. Go for it.
I have a question. Is consistency something that is in line with their own values? Like maybe if you want to make people happy and with your service improve yourself and the world, so consistency becomes like your tool to make a world better, for example. Is this it?
Am I understanding you correctly that are you asked that consistency is so important and being consistent?
But I think you're asking if it comes from the owner's perspective.
Yeah.
And
My question is,
if your value is consistency as the owner, it will
No,
become second nature.
it's something like maybe be in the line with your values, your
Yeah,
own
exactly,
values. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
So-
if your value means to make people happy and to make them feel comfortable, or if you want to make your establishment that it's based on hospitality, which is caring for people genuinely, authentically, if you live those values as the owner or the manager, it'd be so much easier to transfer those into the staff to make it become second nature and habitual for the staff. But it has to come from you. You can't expect me to serve somebody in a different value to that's mine, because I won't get it right. So it's got to come from the heart, it's got to come authentically, and it's got to come genuinely. Or else it's forced and you'll never get it right.
The last thing is, I think that if you want to improve in your profession, you must be true with yourself.
Yeah. And
If you fail in the moment in which you decide to do something, just because it's maybe smarter in the moment, but not in the long-term moment.
That's why we're saying don't let the noise confuse you. But the lesson is to life as well. Be no matter who you are, you've got to be true to yourself. You can't ever pretend to be somebody else or you're going to fall flat. And exactly the same with business. So if you're not comfortable working at this level of offering food and beverage service to somebody, don't do it. Because if this is the level you're happy in, you must find yourself in the different level that you're at. Always find where you're comfortable, because as soon as you're comfortable, service and offering people an experience will become easy.
So I think just to add and to close is be authentically consistent.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about. Be real. Okay, guys, I think we've taken a couple of minutes over, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope
Thank
you
you for
enjoyed
listening.
that. It was worthwhile. Thank you.